Hello everyone, welcome. I'm a parent gamer, and we recently played a game of Terraforming Mars, and we really like this game. So we do have some tips, and we'll get to some time-saving tips that we found. This game was at least 6 hours long, and we're pretty sure we could shave some time off of that. So, who else do we have here with me?
Jason. The person who won with 128.
Yeah.
And then I'm Amy.
Okay.
And she got second place in the 123.
Yes, which he's trying to make sure that you know that I lost with 114. So, we do want to have a shout out to Stronghold
13.
Games because we did have a whole set of cards, a whole stack of cards that came in, and they were cut incorrectly. But I contacted Stronghold Games, and they replaced them for free, and they said it would take a few weeks, but actually got it in like a week. So very nice, very good to work with, very good customer support. So another good reason why you have a great game and they have a great support. It's a good combination. Our game, as you can see, we have show the top view. We have the board got terraformed. We have terraformed Mars. This is the most tiles we've actually ever had placed on the board that we've played, and we were using the Hellas map as opposed to the first expansion. We also had Venus next, so we were terraforming Venus some, and we also had colonies out there, which really helped certain people quite a bit more. So you won. So what was your game-winning strategy?
I think it was trying to make the best out of the cards you have. Like, if you have, let's say, like this, what I would do is I would get a bunch of energy and heat production, and get a card and if I got a card that said that it turned a heat into a terraform rating, like you did, so you could just boost that up, and then you could use these as that, and we'll raise up your terraform rating fast.
Yep. So we'll talk about that because so we'll get into that. The first thing I want to mention is be aware that you do have quite a few cubes that the game comes with, but in this game, I actually ran out of cubes. So if you can see the top view again, I'll show you. They have a whole bunch of blue cubes, and we have a whole bunch of black cubes left over. I have no green cubes left over. I have green cubes all over the board. I have them all over the colonies, and I have them all over my player board. So I ran completely out of green cubes. I had to start substituting with some of the things that we use. Yes, things we were using for money. So
you were using these.
I was using the silver ones. Yes. So that's something to be aware of. So there's lots of ways you can use your cubes in this game, especially start adding expansions. So be aware that you can run out of cubes. The cubes on part of the reason too is because we have cubes on the cards as well. So at first we did try tapping the cards that had an action because you can only use an action once per generation. And so we tried using tapping, but especially start adding expansions, you have so many cards out here that have actions on them. You have to put action cubes on them to help save space on the board.
You don't have room to be turning them, and they'll be knocking into each other.
So that was another place where we were using cubes, and that became very difficult for me. But they still had some, and they were running. Amy was running low, but she did have some.
I was running low, but I did have some.
Yep, and Jason, really, if you look at the board again, I will point this out. Go ahead. That there was only one blue cube on the board, and blue is the one who won. He was actually getting all his victory points. He was getting terraforming rating because he terraformed pretty much most of Venus, and he had lots of victory points in cubes sitting on his cards. He had several things that were all adding on to one particular card that was just giving him massive amounts of victory points. So you do not have to terraform actual full-blown Mars, although it does help a lot. But this is the first time we've had somebody win who didn't have the most cubes or most tiles on the board. Another thing we found was that we had there's some, you know, be careful with confusion between the milestones and awards. Some players sometimes tend to think of milestones like awards. They think it's something, oh, if you get that, then you know, your possibility of winning. The thing about milestones is as soon as you've reached that mark, you can now purchase that and get it. You can only have 3 milestones. You can only have 3 awards. So 3 milestones are things you're going to. I've now reached this milestone. I can get 5 victory points. Those are mine and only for me. And get them as soon as you can, because you only have 3 of them. The awards are something you're hoping to get first or second place in. You get 5 victory points for first, 2 victory points for second place. And so, yeah, those. Yeah, and so those were they can be confusing. Some players have been confusing those, thinking awards are like the milestones are like awards, and so be aware the milestones you normally get somewhat early on in the game, whereas awards are more of the late game points that you're going for. So now we're going to do a top 5 of ways to shorten the time. Reduce the time or shorten this game. All right? And
now number 5.
Number 5 is get the cheat sheet on Board Game Geek. There is someone has created a cheat sheet which is free and you can print it, and it has all of the one of the pages has all the symbols and what they mean and some of the actions. The other one has a whole lot more stuff on it, as well as the generation, how a generation flows, including the solar phase, which gets quite long as you add more expansions, and it even covers all the milestones and awards. So you don't have to go look those up, keep pulling the manuals and books out for all the different expansions. All right here in one sheet. Saves a lot of time of having to look things up. Okay.
All right. Say it.
Which one?
Number 4.
Number
4 is use Prelude. So Prelude is an expansion. It was the second expansion. And it adds these little pink cards, right? And so these pink cards help jumpstart the game. So even if you have first-time players, people who are brand new to the game, we still highly recommend going for Prelude. Amy's first time we played, she played. We've been using Prelude with her. It just helps jumpstart the game. Get some things flowing in the game so that you're not the first 2 or 3 generations are not wasted and just trying to get some production going. So it helps. It really is a huge help in the game. Plus, can start picking up some strategies right off the bat from what you're wanting to do. All right, and now the next tip.
Number 3.
Number 3 is use the world government rule in the solar phase. So in the solar phase, there are the end part. So you do production and then you do the solar phase. There's a section called World Government where whoever has the first player marker gets to either place an ocean, raise the temperature, or increase the oxygen. One of the 3 global parameters required for the game to end. And with that, they do not get any terraform rating increase with that. But it does help speed the game up because it's getting those global parameters finished. And there can be strategies in that. If you're the first player and you're the one playing that, you might want to play something, increase things that are giving other players points, but not you. So that's another way to help shorten the game, though. All right.
Number 2.
Number 2 is do not use the draft variant. So there is a variant in the base game that says you can do drafting. We did play with that this game, and we think it added probably at least an hour and a half to the game. So it can be a lot of fun. If you're planning a whole day, like a whole day Saturday, to play a board game, then yeah, you could probably want to use the draft variant. Because basically what you're doing is giving you a lot more options. So instead of looking at 4 cards, and choosing between those 4 cards, which ones you're going to purchase or not purchase, you're looking at 4 cards, choosing the best one, passing 3, then getting 3, then have to choose the best one of those, and then pass it. Basically, you're playing 7 wonders on a smaller. You're playing a mini version of 7 wonders every generation. This game took us 13 generations to play, and so basically we played a mini variant of 7 wonders. Instead of having 3 eras, we had 13. So that then after you have your 4 cards, you still have to decide which ones you're going to purchase and which ones you're going to discard.
And that can be very time consuming.
It's very time consuming. It took a lot of time because you do have to make a lot. Instead of making a decision on the 4 cards you have, you're making decisions on the 4 cards of which one's the best, and then the next best, and then you just get one, and you got to choose all that again. So it takes a lot more time. So that is a huge time saver. Is do not play with the draft variant if you want to save some time. So if you only just want to do this in one evening, okay?
All right.
And number 1, the big one. Again, just like the draft variant, this one's ate up a lot of our time, and it is the position of please use some sort of token or marker. Now, Terraforming Mars comes with a 1-player marker, and it also came with this other little round piece, which we didn't know really what to do with, but we have found a use for it that we think we're going to use from now on, and that is whoever turn it is has a token or a marker that they're going to pass. So when you do 1 or 2 actions in the action phase, after you're done with that, you pass this marker to the next player. So they now know that you're done. And we can quit asking, whose turn is it? Because we ask that a lot. Every generation it gets asked 2 or 3 times. Whose turn is it? There are also times where you only want to do 1 action for strategic reasons. And so you do your 1 action and then you're trying to get them to go. And they're like, but you only do 1 action. You are allowed to do 1 action or 2 actions. So this way you have completely confirmed, no, this is what I am done. It's now your turn, you go. And we can stop asking whose turn is it, because you'll say I did my 2, it's your turn, and then you're discussing with somebody some strategy or something else, and they think it's still your turn because you're still talking. They don't realize you're done. And so it hasn't moved. So that marker, you've got to have some kind of token or marker to make it move. That eats up a lot of time. Even if you don't have the expansions, just playing the base game, not playing draft variant, it's going to eat up a lot of time. So that's our number 1 tip, is use some more sort of marker to know. Now, we have the same problem with other board games like Scythe, which, a wonderful game we love, but again, the same kind of thing. You spend a lot of time asking, whose turn is it? So something just for all board games. That's why I put it as number 1, because not just for Terraforming Mars, a lot of board games. If you have something where you're having to pass turns after certain actions, just let people know. All right, that's it. That was our top 5, our tips and top 5s. And one other thing too is in the expansion of Turmoil. This was the original board that comes with it, which is kind of flimsy, and if you just tap it, all your cubes get messed up. In the Turmoil one, I did on the Kickstarter anyway, they now have these 3D boards. So you can kind of see they have the 3D, and they've added in these little 10s and 20s, so you can add these additional pieces. Again, this is where I'm using some of my cubes got used up. But this is what allowed us to do, use the board. There are apps out there that you can use to play this game. The problem I have with the apps, although they're really great for keeping control of your amounts of everything, the problem is you can't see what other players have. And as you do a lot of the games, especially Corporate Era and things of that nature, there's a lot of cards that will say any player lose 8 plants or 4 plants, or they lose 3 production energy. There are cards that do these kind of things, and so if you can't see what they have, who has what, you have to be, you may play a card and find out that you're the only one that has any of those things, and so it can be really rough. Now, understand there is a rule that says, if it says any player loses 4 plants, you can choose to do 0, to not have to force anybody to lose plants. That is an option. It is in the rule book. But if you're trying to win the game and get ahead, you do want to have to, I find it easier to use the actual board so you can see what people have out there. So, last comment. All right, and so please subscribe and check out other videos. We're going to start playing some games and recording them. So if you want to start catching some of that, just give us a thumbs up and leave a comment and let us know what you think.